Howdy everybody. Today we're going to be looking at how we can export animations from Autodesk Maya into Unreal Engine using the Alembic workflow. So, to be able to actually export this animation with Alembic, you have to remember two very important details. Now, when it comes to Alembic, it's going to be baking out all of this animation data into your actual mesh. So, because it's doing that, you do not need to export your controls or your rig. And in fact, if you were to export your controls and your rig, you'll actually find out that your Alembic won't be imported and it'll actually be broken. So make sure that you're only going ahead and selecting your actual mesh to export right here. Something super important to keep in mind is that if you were to export this with 3 mode, which right now I'm on smooth preview mode, which is 3, it might actually not export with smooth preview. And there's a reason for that. Alembic, unlike FBX, doesn't actually detect smooth mesh previews upon export. So to actually make sure that it's smoothed out, what you actually have to do is go to 1 mode and then go over to mesh and then actually go ahead and press the smooth operation. Now this will actually properly smooth out your object right here. It does add more geometry, but now you're going to get that smooth preview that you already had with 3 mode, but it's actually baked into your mesh. And so now you can actually go ahead and export this out with the smooth mesh preview. So go ahead and select your object right here, which is our chimera. And then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and go to Cache and then Alembic Cache. Now, if you don't have this option, do not fret, because all you have to do is go over to Windows, go to Settings and Preferences, go to Plugin Manager, and make sure that ABC Export and ABC Import are loaded. So now that we already have this there, we can actually just go ahead and go to Cache, Alembic Cache, and then you want to select Export Selection to Alembic. Now, whenever you do this, you're actually going to get a bunch of settings out here on the side. The main thing I want to make sure is that I'm going with my entire frame range right here, which is 1 to 237, which is correct. So I can just go ahead and choose Time Slider for the time name. Now, as I move down right here, you'll actually see that you have advanced options. This is where we'll be setting up some extra attributes that we want to export along with our mesh and our animation. So, some really important ones you want to make sure that you have is you want to make sure that you have UV right, so that you're bringing UVs from Maya into there. You want to go ahead and select UV sets as well if you're planning to use any sort of UDIMs. You want to go ahead and write color sets and face sets. And these right here are probably the most important ones, along with world space. So what world space does is that it actually makes sure that your items are seen in the exact place they are according to the world, instead of just exporting stuff according to the object. This can be extremely useful if you have stuff parented to your bones or your animation, and if they're actually exporting out, or if your character has multiple components that are parented together and are actually in relation to each other in the world space. So this is why you want to go ahead and check this on right here. Optionally, you can also select strip namespaces if you want to remove any sort of extra namespaces that Maya adds to it. So I tend to just keep that on right there. Now that we have all this set up right here with the advanced options, we can go to Documents, and then I'm going to type in chimera_anim, and this will be the name of our Alembic file. Now we can officially export. And you know that it is properly exporting because you see the animation playing back as it's writing out all the frames. Perfect. Now that we've actually exported this into an Alembic file, we can go ahead and go over to Unreal Engine right here. So now we have Unreal open, we're inside of a VDevRig file. And what we can do is we can go ahead and import this ABC file right here. So let's go over to Documents, and let's actually search for our Chimera, which should be right here. So our Chimera ABC file, go ahead and open that up. As you can see, you have all of the different components of the Chimera along with when they're starting and ending animation right here. So this looks pretty good. Now, when you're importing Alembic, the main thing you want to do is that you do not want to import this as a static mesh. You want to go ahead and import this as a geometry cache. So now we basically have our frame start, our frame end, and we have 0 to 237 right here. And we have our stuff being in per frame. Now, this is super important, but the main thing you want to make sure that you do is you want to unselect flatten tracks. This is super important, and make sure to do this so that you're actually getting all of your materials and having them all separated out instead of just having it just be one material or one mesh. This is super important, make sure you do this step. Now, as you're done with this, you can go ahead and move all the way down. make sure to select Create Materials and Find Materials if you have any materials already configured. And once you do this, you have your conversion preset to Autodesk Maya. Now, I tend to find out that this preset doesn't necessarily work, so I just go ahead and add 90 degrees to the x-axis to kind of rotate it out. Now, we can go ahead and officially import this, and you can see that it's actually failing import. And so we can actually see right here that it's unable to import it because there are 14 vertices that are not actually triangles or quads, so they have n-gons. Alembic is super strict with the fact that whatever geometry you bring absolutely needs to not have any n-gons. So to kind of fix that, I can actually go over here to mesh, I can go over to cleanup, and then I can fix by tessellation any faces with more sides. I can go ahead and fix some other stuff as well. So now that I do this right here, I can press cleanup, and then it should have fixed all of those faces. So yeah, we can go ahead and actually just export this right again. So go to Alembic Cache, export selection to Alembic, and we have all of our settings pretty much set up right here. So I just have to select this file, export selection. Yes, I want to replace it. Awesome. So now that we have this exported, let's go ahead and import this into Unreal. Go to import, go ahead and select your Chimera right there. And as you can see, we have our Chimera with our start and end frame from 0 to 237. We want to make sure flatten tracks is off again, and then create find materials, have everything set up. Now we can import. Now, the import process is going to take a little bit of time because it's loading in all of your animation, but once it's done, you'll actually see your asset appear onto the content drawing. And there we go. We have our animation right here, all ready to go. We can go ahead and click and drag our object into here. Now, we actually might have to scale up our object right here. As you can see, we have our Chimera all nice and good. Now, you might be wondering, wait, why is it not playing the animation? So to be able to play your animation, go to Content Drawer again. Make sure that you go to a level sequence or create a level sequence. Let's go ahead and click and drag this into our level sequence. Go to Track, and then make sure you select Geometry Cache. And now when you do it, you can see your animation playing right as we want it to be. Perfect. And actually, if we go ahead and select our character right here, we see we have our material that we need all ready to go as well. So we can just select this and replace it with whatever material that you want to. And there we go. That is how we export and import Alembic files with animation from Autodesk Maya into Blender.